Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Wynn. I am the product manager, sales manager, and market development manager here at Zyxel North America. So today we get to talk about some cool new features and new functionalities that will really help in the remote network, remote kind of work environment that we live in today, and how partners can take advantage of some of these new technologies to make life easier for everybody, both on the IT side as well as the management side and the end user experience as well. So just by a quick show of hands, I usually do that. If you can hear me, just raise your hand, and also, hey, wake up. I mean, it's time to learn more about Zyxel. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Dan. Today we're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about that. And if you have any questions, again, please feel free to use the Q&A section. Primarily, that's what I will use to answer questions in line. If you have anything related to the slides that are there, I'll try to answer them in line. If I don't get to them, we'll answer them at the end of our webinar. So today's going to be a little bit of a shorter webinar because it's really focused about that secure Wi-Fi, but we'll see how we get through these slides today. But again, thank you for being here, and welcome to this secure Wi-Fi introduction here at Zyxel. So let's go ahead and jump into that. Just a quick introduction of who we are. Zyxel has been in business over 30 years, established in 1989. 100 million devices making connections, 600 employees worldwide, serving 150 markets, and 700,000 businesses working smarter with Zyxel solutions. So we are Zyxel Networks, and we're here to be your networking ally. And we've also had some changes in our sales coverage. So these are the contact information that you may need in order to communicate with your sales rep. We have David, Andy, and Jacob. David handles the East region and Canada. Andy is the West region and Alaska, Hawaii, and Jacob is the Central region. So those kind of a little switch and move there. If you are already working with any of those, we have brought on board Andy just recently. So look forward to that. Internationally recognized for our innovation and design worldwide, winning awards for our development because a lot of our products are done in-house, and both the software and the hardware. We've been certified with ICSA certification with an extension of Verizon for the last 20 years plus straight. So we're one of the few who have that kind of distinction today, being able to make sure that our products work and secure the way that they are supposed to secure for firewall, for VPN, for UTM functionalities. We are solutions driven. So if you are a customer or you're a partner or you work with end customers that require some sort of feature set, functionality, or things that we can help to make your life easier from the networking perspective or from the product perspective, we want to hear from you. And that's the access that you have with us here at Zyxel. Because we do make the products, both hardware and software, we're able to create the functionality or be able to modify or fix any kind of things, or make, move things around if necessary within the UI to make it easier for you to do your monitoring and how you use your ecosystem here on the network to service your customers. So we have end-to-end solutions because we do provide that pretty much anything that's connected to a network. You could just imagine Zyxel has something that connects to it. It could be a security appliance providing you UTM, threat protection, content filtering services, wireless solutions giving you access both with 11AC and Wi-Fi 6 technologies, switching networks for your core with and without PoE, layer 2, layer 3 with fiber, even specific CCTV type switches as well. Gateway access hotspot solutions giving you hotspot functionality, like as if you were in a hotel where you get a terms of service and a user agreement page, and then being able to manage them not only as a standalone with a third-party SNMP or within our Nebula cloud solution. So that's just a quick, highlight and quick introduction of who Zyxel is, and what we want to dive into is secured Wi-Fi for the remote working environment. And it's brought to you by ZLD 5.0. ZLD is our Zynos, our operating system that we developed within our firewall hardware systems, and that is what is going to be used as to propel you, to give you the functionality of the secure Wi-Fi, creating a secure collaborative network environment for even those who are off-site, remote workers at home, or even in another building, and be able to provide security and access securely, quickly, and easily. So there's always a balance. The challenge is, how do I maintain productivity by giving people access to the network and security, right? In this, over this past year, the very first thing that happened when things started to shut down was everybody was just trying to find the easiest way or the quickest way to be able to still work remotely and give access to, you know, these people or to the employees who are sitting at home, and giving them the easiest way to get into the network to do what they need to do via remote access, file shares, whatever it may be. That was being developed, but it was kind of at a sacrifice of security. And now looking back, as things settled down, you know, a lot of companies are like, well, how do I do this now more efficiently and more securely? So they're having to balance that remote working productivity versus security enforcement policy, because now how do you control or how do you enforce company policies on the company laptop that they've taken home, but they're sitting on their home network? What's stopping them from, you know, accessing other kinds of content that may be, you know, disruptive maybe to productivity? So there's that balance there. And how do you control that? So typically users have 3-4 different devices, and then how do you get multiple laptops or even a VoIP phone or tablets that typically would connect to the office environment? How do you get that to connect all efficiently through the home existing network? Because you don't have control over the router, you don't have control over what kind of equipment is provided there in the home. And so a lot of companies had to go and install like VPN client softwares to the laptop or to the mobile device, and then manage all sorts of keys, configuration. So it was a real nightmare to try to get all these things kind of built up if they didn't have it already. Well, here at Zyxel, though, we've kind of built that infrastructure already technically, because you know, like myself, we travel, we go do trainings, and we visit customers like across the country. And so we're always in kind of a remote working environment anyways. So we have all the tools and things that we need with us. But in the reality of the people who have been, you know, just been forced into working remote, this is very new to them. And especially for the IT side, if they've never had to manage somebody working remote, how to get all those resources and all of the CRMs and all those things that typically is all housed within the local environment, how do you give access to that? Things like server access or even backup, network PC access, printer access. You know, how do you print invoices or something that needs to go to the operational side? So we all face those kinds of challenges. And so we introduced a functionality called secure Wi-Fi, and it's kind of encompassed around this whole Zyxel Nebula together kind of theme. The fact that you could bring different networks together using Zyxel equipment and being able to establish things like VPN, being able to make site-to-site VPNs easily and efficiently, and then taking advantage of what we call like a drop-in secure Wi-Fi feature. In essence, it's basically dropping in an access point into the remote environment and allowing for that to have direct access or secured access and tunneled access back to the central office. So it's able to do and create these secured tunnels very easily, very efficiently through both either as a standalone product or using the Nebula Cloud. Now, Nebula Cloud also gives you a lot of visibility, but what it does is it makes it feel like you are working in the office. It creates a secure layer 2 tunnel and is able to put you into its own VLAN as if you were sitting in the office. So you can have your salespeople connect to an SSID that's in their home. So you've deployed this access point, and it will look like your Zyxel business, right? So it will just say your SSID, connect to Zyxel. So you connect to Zyxel, and I would be able to have access as if I was sitting in the office. With traditional VPNs, you usually had issues through IPsec where you had to do special mappings or NetBIOS changes or a lot of configurations to allow for you to have access to a basic network things like printers or network printers and network shares or anything on the server side of things. You had to build all that connectivity, but this it creates a virtual access through the internet, through your existing connection, without having to open any kind of special ports or have to modify anything in your existing home firewalls. You could drop in the device will dial home basically and call for and make the connectivity as it's needed back to the central office. And it is like as long as you're connected to that SSID, which then you do all your sorts of authentication, You could do your typical network Active Directory policies. So your laptops can connect to it. Your voice over IP phones can connect to that SSID. And it makes for a very secure, easy way to connect, because however you connected while you were sitting in the office, it's like you have your personal office access point, and it's already making that connectivity back to the office. So it's really a great way to get and simplify that remote access. Our new secure Wi-Fi gives you that drop-in feature. You literally have to just in a standalone mode, you would just have to configure it with the gateway with our USG Flex for ATP products, and have it pre-configured. Basically, it knows where it is or who it belongs to. Then you can ship that access point off to the remote user, who then just plugs it into their network on their LAN, plugs it into the power, and boots it up. And once it gets that, it will rebuild a tunnel to that back to the office, and they can connect to that SSID, and then you can manage it as well then from that office USG device. So it really creates a seamless access to the corporate network, but also do it securely, because then you can enforce different policies. You now have control to enforce that laptops that are issued by the company that connects to the company Wi-Fi network is then being policied, properly and secure properly through the network back to the office. So then you can control that and mitigate the other things that people can do while they have access. Also, it kind of alleviates the issue where in a home network, it's typically very insecure. You have just like a WPA to access point 11AC or whatever. And you have, smart TVs, you have your smart devices, your everything that's smart is plugged into that. Your fridge is even plugged into that Wi-Fi network. So not only does it have opportunity, you don't want all that stuff to also show up or have access through to your corporate network, right? So you can't really have that all opened up, or have to install a VPN router. So maybe the cumbersomeness of having to go and deploy an actual full-on router that builds a VPN connection back to the network. Having to ask an employee that might not be versed in that kind of technology to try to do that for you, that could be very difficult to do. But using Nebula, using these access points to do this, you can really create that control and be able to deploy those in both a cloud Nebula management or through a standalone mode. There's no remote VPN firewall required when you're using this. So you can use the existing VPN or existing network device that's providing internet connectivity. So it really adds additional network to your home office and for that remote user. You can technically do this as well. If you have maybe a temporary office or maybe a different office that's maybe off-site, and you don't want to install like another firewall just to do a VPN tunnel between them, you can literally still drop in multiple remote workplace access points and have those configured to build the tunnels back to the main office network. And you can quickly have a secure network for that remote site. So you can imagine the different kind of applications that could be used, not only for, it could be any kind of work environment. I mean, I could literally take this access point with me on a business trip, plug it in. As long as it has internet connectivity out to the internet, I can have my own private network that is secured and has connectivity back to the office environment. So it's all about bringing that together and bringing security, being able to provide security and control over those network environments. Because I think the overarching theme that we're seeing more in the industry is about zero trust networks. That means we don't trust any network. We have to take the reins of providing security in our own hands, being able to make sure that wherever you're connected, wherever you're doing work, whether it be in the office, whether you be on the road or you're at home, all of those areas can be insecure. So we can't necessarily trust them. So we have to build our own trusted network. And this kind of application brings forth that kind of application that for zero trust networks, being able to provide that internal and external threat protection at the same time, and be able to do that no matter where the client device is in working. So that's really a principle of enterprise type applications, but we're bringing like usual, enterprise type functionalities, mentality, features into the small business. So we're able to then secure and make sure that these devices can be authenticated, because you don't want just anybody to be accessing the company network with a, just an open SSID, right? So we have ways to make it even more secure. So being able to use, device authentication, identification, username, password authentication, also two-factor authentication with integration into Google Authenticator as well. Being able to do that two-factor, make sure that the devices that are connected to it are really devices that should be on it to go back to the corporate network. We even have abilities to do dynamic pre-shared keys. The cool thing is you can have multiple devices, multiple offices using the same SSID, but be based on the pre-shared key that they use, get put into their own separate VLAN. So it can be a very unique way of, instead of creating SSID for the salespeople and SSID for the finance people, or one for tech support, you could just use one SSID, and based on the pre-shared key that each one uses, it identifies whether they are a sales, a finance, or a tech support, and puts them in their own separate network so that the tech support cannot see the finance servers or access those finance kind of applications. So you have full control over that, and that's really a great advantage on you for you to develop these kinds of applications. So you can gain access, again, with that concept of zero trust, making sure things are isolated where they should be, just in case somebody gets compromised, it doesn't affect some of the other areas of the business. And it's quick and simple. You just have to create the account within the Nebula side, make sure that it has the latest firmware on the device itself before you connect it and you register the device to the Nebula. So this happens on the USG. So you need to have that 5.0, ZLD 5.0 loaded there before you can then access it into the cloud. In the APs are kind of the same way. If you want to use it for that secure Wi-Fi function, you would have the access points go to the Nebula side, and the Nebula side will then be configured for that particular site. The firewall that's maintaining the secure Wi-Fi functionality can be paired with it and activated. And then once that device is now live on a remote site, it will dial home and have all of that kind of come into play. With the standalone setup, it's a little bit different. Like I mentioned earlier, you just have to have the devices set up in the local network with the gateway, with the USG Flex that is going to manage it. You preset it up, and then you go and deploy the access point. You send it off to get provisioned in the remote site. So that's kind of the main two differences. Now with the Nebula Cloud, the advantage of Nebula is that you can then manage multiple devices, multiple customers, multiple sites, all together in the same kind of in the same pane of glass. So you can have access to not only the device information, you can also get other security information as well. So you can have threat management information, how much bandwidth people are using, what websites they're going to, if you have those enabled, be able to identify abnormal behavior, create custom reports for that access. And you can then switch between both, again, Nebula or Secure Reporter to find that information. So that's all kind of integrated together, gives you that visibility that you typically wouldn't get from a home network. You don't know what they're doing, how, where they're going, how much bandwidth they're using, if there's any security issues going on. But with this kind of solution, you get that kind of visibility with that insight, with all that data that's in the cloud. So, and it helps to manage at multiple customers. So especially in the remote environment and with wireless, you could have 15, 20 employees for just one office, and each one of those could be managed as their own secure Wi-Fi network, right? And you can have those either be mass configured together as one giant network, or you can individually manage them as sites as well. So you can do and be able to monitor, be able to provision. So when you do firmware upgrades, it can be automatically pushed to the devices, or configuration changes. If you're changing DNS or anything like that for DHCP, for people who are on those Wi-Fi networks, you can all do that through the Nebula platform. So the USG Flex is what kind of controls, is maybe the main brains of it. It's our high performance USG security platform. And it can work in standalone mode, but we've just recently in April launched the 5.0, which gave you the secure Wi-Fi, but more importantly, gave you access for this device to be flexed into Nebula. So that is our cloud platform, and it provides you all of the security functionalities at very high speeds and throughputs that you see with the USG Flex standalone, but now be able to manage that functionality in the Nebula cloud itself and be able to provide you with that secure Wi-Fi AP tunnel, collaborative detection and response and threat analysis. So it's able to make changes. You can find out if there is a threat on that Wi-Fi and take action, do a collaborative response on with that Wi-Fi to maybe isolate the user or block the user or block the threat at the access point level. So we can do that with this collaborative detective and response, and using two-factor authentication to keep everything secure, both within the device itself, also authenticating the users that are connected to that secure Wi-Fi tunnel. And the thing about the Wi-Fi tunnel is that it comes as a separate license. So if you don't want to use secure Wi-Fi, that's fine. Your customers can don't have to use it. But if you have the application, you can add on that functionality to the device and be able to use that services. And especially if you're a managed service provider, that could be your add-on service for X dollars a month. We provide you with this AP tunneling feature and be able to give you this remote, secure remote access capability, and be able to sell that to your customers for a monthly fee. And that's its own separate licensing that you add on top of this. Now, some question may be is if you use Nebula, do you need Nebula Pro Pack in order to have access to secure Wi-Fi? And the answer is no. You only need the secure Wi-Fi license, and it works both in the standalone and in the Nebula side. You could be on the base Pro Pack, which is the free, it's not base Pro Pack, the base pack in Nebula, which is the free service on Nebula for management. You can use that and still have the secure Wi-Fi function. But typically, if you're going to be using the full UTM, you're going to be probably subscribed into the Pro Pack anyways for all those extra services. So the number of APs that can be supported per device. So the ATP series, which is our high-end sandboxing solution, has the secure Wi-Fi as well, and it's built into the bundle. So if you've already subscribed to the gold tier package, the all-in-one bundle that the ATP provides, it already gives you access to these numbers of secure tunnel mode APs. So you can see the ATP 100, you can have up to 6 remote APs. Again, because it does use bandwidth, it does use some of the seats of your existing access point controllers. That's why the number is where it's at. It's more about throughput and that kind of connectivity that we want to keep the number within a reasonable coverage. So ATP 200 can do up to 10 remote, and then scales up to ATP 700, which will do 66, all the way up to 130. And these are all included. Now the supported access points you can see are on the side here on the right side, the WAX series and the WAC 500 and 500Hs. We'll continue to add additional access points to the supported list, but those are the current ones that we have. They're the more recent solutions here. But the USG Flex has those. And again, you have to add the licenses for it in order to add the 6 devices to the USG Flex or Flex 100. And the VPN series as well has access to this ZLT 5.0 and gives you access to that. But without the UTM, the VPN cannot go to Nebula. Only right now, currently, the USG Flex is the only series within this that has access to the Nebula cloud. ATP is coming later on this year to be able to have access as well within the Nebula cloud. So we'll see that come in later on. So the access points that can be used on it is the one that has that secure Wi-Fi and the CDR. It's the collaborative defense response, the WAC 500. These are some of the other access points that we have in our portfolio. And then on the wall mount type solutions for maybe hospitality, or maybe this is more convenient because it's just a small, a small box about the size of, I don't know, a phone charger brick or something like that. You could deploy that, in the home. It might be more, non-intrusive in terms of instead of having a giant or a bigger access point. You could deploy like a WAC 500H to provide you coverage in that area. And then you can also choose to use Wi-Fi 6 if you have, people who have maybe in a larger coverage area, or maybe a remote office that has a lot of employees. You could deploy these solutions because Wi-Fi 6 is really good at handling multiple connections from multiple people at the same time. So it's more efficient on delivering connectivity through the connection. So you're able to access all those different devices through the access point back to the office network. And you're able to do it and get things connected with Nebula with just a few clicks, just getting things, as long as it gets online, as long as it's able to dial home, you have access to configure it, to make changes, to make updates, to monitor it. So that's why we feel like Nebula tied in with the secure Wi-Fi is a great, a powerful solution for your deployment into that remote environment. Because it is able to do installations without even having to unbox the device, necessarily. So if you're going with the pure Nebula type solution, you could literally QR code scan the AP into the app, into the app, and it applies it to a site or an organization or a customer, or maybe to an employee that you're shipping this to for that customer. You can have it already pre-configured in the cloud in the Nebula side, and deploy it and have pretty much like a self-install contactless installation solution where the device is delivered to the home. The employee will just unbox it, have some basic instructions of plugging in the device into the modem or into the router that they have existing, and then plug in maybe the AC adapter, or if there's a PoE injector, they can plug that in there as well to power up these access points. Typically then these access points would probably be better to have like the AC adapter in that kind of home environment. But if you were deploying it into maybe a small office remote, you may send like a PoE switch as well, like an 8-port PoE switch or whatever it may be, for that remote office to have access. And so it can power up those access points directly with that Ethernet cable. So once it dials home and it has internet connectivity, the access point will just say, hey, who do I belong to? I am this access point. And the Nebula Cloud would say, hey, you belong to this customer, and you are this employee's access point. Here's your firmware, if there's a new firmware that needs to be updated, and here's your configuration file. So you're able to go up in minutes without having to use any additional software or additional hardware. You don't need to install any kind of special cloud keys or anything like that. It's all housed within the device itself. So the deployment, the configuration steps are a lot easier to do that. And especially for users, they can do it very easily. Or if you want to even go more complex, you can, if you want somebody to be, able to do a install, you could hire even a third party out in the location area where, you're trying to deploy these for a customer, and they don't have to be a very technical person, just somebody who can plug in cables and be trained to just plug in this one into the modem and this one into a PoE switch. And once that has that connectivity, your IT guys within your own side can manage all of these devices within the Nebula Cloud. I mean, in fact, they could be sitting at home on their tablet and seeing the device go online and be able to make sure that it's up and running and make all the configurations that's needed. So it gives you really a great view, a high level view, if you want, of what's going on within the organization, within the company, within your customer that's happening, what's going on. Gives you this view that you can drill into as well. So you can take a look at some of the, as long as you had internet access via tablet, via your PC, even your mobile device, or even on the app, you can see the general health of the network and get notifications. You can get alerts and alarms if something's going on within that network. But you can see on the dashboard, and you can customize these little widgets here too, to see how much bandwidth they're using, how much PoE power they're using, what websites they're going to, how much traffic they're using, who is using that much traffic, how many access points are there, switches, are they all up and running, right? Are running. So you have all this access and all this data information in a very complex environment, and be able to see. So you can see when you're already managing a network, and then all of a sudden you have 10 other access points that are all being used remotely in a secure Wi-Fi environment. you want to be able to manage those as well. So this gives you that full ability to have that visibility within the Nebula platform. You're able to see, statuses. You could drill and move between sites and organizations, and it gives you that real-time summary of that traffic. And it's accessible anywhere. You have alerts that can even go to your watch through your mobile device, or you can, find out, how the networks are doing, or drill into and see live statistics and information like that. And it can also synchronize these profiles as well. So let's say you have multiple access points that are using secure Wi-Fi. You can have the same policies and same SSIDs, same logins, and be able to have those configurations moved across and applied to all those devices that are there. You can sync them, you can back up the devices, and then you can store those informations within the cloud. In case there's a break fix scenario, you could just send out another one and assign it to that site, and it will basically become that same access point as if the one that was replaced. So you can create sites and device configuration templates that you can then apply to different deployments. So you can make it even simpler, where you have a configuration template where you have, this is remote employee 1, and that's the template, that's the cookie cutter that's already preset. And then the easy thing to do is to, when you have another employee that needs this remote access, or another customer, you can then just apply and clone that configuration to the new access point, and be able to, easily have the same exact configurations, the same SSIDs and all that, and then basically ship the product over to the customer or to the end user. So you can do all of your firmware updates, and again, managing numbers, right? It's back in the days where you would have to have remote access into the network. If you had 15 access points, you would then have to configure to upgrade each one of them one by one, make sure that they're all back up online before you're done with your project. Here, with our firmware updates through the cloud, you can basically push or schedule different ones. You could set up your scheduling to handle all of that over the cloud itself. And if you have a problem, this gives you a great troubleshooting tool, especially in that remote office. I mean, I don't know how many of you will have to deal with tech support, or at least be tech support for your customers. And you have somebody at home going, I'm connected to your Wi-Fi, but I can't get any connectivity, and you have no visibility. You have no way of getting into the network. The closest thing that you can have is firing up a remote access software that you log into, and you try to use their computer as the eyes into the network, and you try to troubleshoot it that way. But with Zyxel's Nebula solution, we give you a lot of the tools that you wouldn't typically need to have that access without having to build any additional VPN tunnels. You can do it through the devices themselves. So you have access to remote CLI commands. You get diagnostics if you have switches, switches in that network to see cable diagnostics. You can do speed test and pings to see if there's some connectivity. The view of the Nebula itself can tell you what the Wi-Fi connectivity, the signal strength between the access point and the devices that are connected to it. And you can see it by name, you can use it by IP, you can see the MAC address information. It gives you all that visibility to see, well, maybe you're not getting good connectivity because I see your DBM is at a neg 90 or something like that. So you're in a kind of a fringe access side. You either have to get closer to the access point, or be in an area that has better coverage, or maybe we have to deploy another access point to wherever you're at in that coverage area to provide you better services there. So those are kind of the tools that gives you the eyes and the visibility into the network that you typically wouldn't have access to, or it's not really easy to build. Because let's say you're only deploying a few of these networks, or maybe your customer only has 5 or 6 of these. You wouldn't build a whole, third-party, software, SNMP management software just to manage 5 or 6 sites, right? But this can scale down to that. It could be, just 10 sites if you wanted to, and manage it as that's your entire customer base. It could be handled that way. Or you can have thousands of customers and manage through that same exact platform and in that same cloud. Also, visibility of the topology. You could see what devices are connected to what within the Nebula cloud. So you can see what's plugged into which ports, and again, use that as a troubleshooting tool. Also, detailed logs on how people are using the connectivity, what's being connected, what's disconnected. when the internet connection goes up or down, that information gets logged into the cloud. So we offer 3 tiers within our within our Nebula solution. The base pack is free. So there's a lot of features that are there, from the management to some of the loggings that are part of that free pack. And that doesn't cost you anything for using the cloud. But of course, we have features that are very beneficial in the Pro pack. That's our full featured. And we just recently launched our Plus pack, which is kind of in between. It gives you some of the features that are higher than the base pack. But if you don't need all of the features that you would want in the Pro pack, this really gives you kind of a cost savings, a little middle tier there, for you to sell it to your customers. And it's a flat rate price per year, a year or 2-year options there, or even monthly options in terms of the pricing. Most of the time, though, the monthly services, those are used to kind of normalize. If you wanted people to get billed in every 6 months, let's say, you can move them into the June timeframe, so you can kind of advance their device to have services up to the June. And it kind of helps with the monthly proration if you wanted to normalize customers to a certain billing date. So that's typically what the monthly is for. But if you want to manage your customers on a monthly basis or maybe a quarterly basis, you can use those monthly packs to do that and provide services and charge them accordingly. So you don't have to necessarily upfront a year or 2 years of services. But of course, there are price breaks if you do use the year and the 2-year options there. So of course, if you have contracts with your customers, then we advise for you to use the 1 or 2 years. If you are a partner with us, thank you for being a partner. If you're considering to become a partner with us, there are a lot of benefits that come into play. So you, as a new partner, always start out in the silver tier. With our partner program, you have access to a lot of programs within the distribution side. We use D&H, Ingram Micro, Synix, Wave, Target, and now we just brought on board Pace International out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Not Minneapolis, out of Minnesota, that provides services and distribution services here in the US. But you want to be in the gold platform, the gold plan, because it gives you the most margins. Silver gives you double-digit margins off of distribution, at distribution side. Bronze gives you more of a single digit. But if you can maintain 6K in 6 months, which is 1K a month of sales, you'll stay in the silver. But if you can do 2K a month, you can be bumped up to the gold, and gives you maximum access to a lot of different things like lead referrals, sales engineer accesses, advanced replacement, next day advanced replacement if necessary as well. And we work with you to try to talk to your customers to figure out what kind of products will fulfill your application, your needs, especially in the secure Wi-Fi. You can definitely talk to us, reach out to those salespeople, and they can bring on board the sales engineer to talk about the solution, talk through what you're trying to do, and see if that's a fit for you, and then find the right products that will fulfill that solution. And so we're here to be your networking ally and be able to provide you any kind of networking products, services, and things like that for your business, for either your managed service or for your installation, your VAR, VAR value added services and things like that. We're here to provide those kinds of networking services to you. And don't forget to connect with us with our latest promos, or having even conversations with us through our LinkedIn website. It's Zyxel-US-channel. That's the US channel, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube at Zyxel America channel. If you guys can go and connect there as well. So that's the end of it. And if you have any questions, this is your turn. Please, again, feel free to use your Q&A section to ask me any questions. If you don't have any questions and you're like, great, I'm going to go and talk to one of the salespeople about the secure Wi-Fi, please do that. But if you also have questions later on that comes up, feel free to email me, try@zyxel.com. That's TRI@zyxel.com. And we thank you for being here. I'm going to sit around for just a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, again, please use the Q&A section. If not, thank you for being here. Hope you have a good rest of your day, rest of your week, and I look forward to talking to you again soon at another Tech Talk at Zyxel. Thank you, everybody.